Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Election Day, everyone. Here's a look at the daily time frame. But first, what I want to say is please join me tomorrow for the monthly market outlook. This will be Wednesday, November 4th at 4 p.m. Central. The link is in the description below. It is a Zoom link that you'll be able to join. It is free and open to the public, and we'll be discussing broader market movement here heading into the end of the year, and also have a list of stock candidates that you'll want on your watch list as this market continues to push into the end of the year and the beginning of next year. So please join me tomorrow, Wednesday, November 4th at 4 p.m. Central for the PivotBoss monthly market outlook for November 2020. Right now, the ES is currently bouncing. We had a pretty decent day in the previous session here where price was able to hold above the previous month's close. Price was able to finish above the previous session's high, and now we have higher highs, higher lows here 3 days running. We had a little bit of a rounded bottom that came into play, and now price pushing through the 33.25s is fairly bullish here. We have an uptrending market right now across time frames here, whether it's the intraday 15, 60-minute time frame right now, at least in the short term, and we could be headed a little bit higher here toward the previous month's midpoint here. That's 33.83s. That's also right at where the breakdown occurred before here, when we had support right around 3,400. Price broke down, reached an edge down here, and now we're snapping back. Again, one thing to keep in mind is that this market had been in a downtrending phase here, and we could still see a failure with a lower high and a continuation here, but this would be around the zone where that would occur. So if there's any failure to hold today, 33.20 or 33.25, that could open up a bit of weakness ahead, but right now everything is kind of quietly pushing higher, and we could still see more upside toward 33.83, which is the midpoint of the previous month's range. We did get that impulse sell-off from this high down to the low of the month, and now we're snapping back. That line right there would be the midpoint at 33.83. So that could still be the target ahead. Perhaps not today, but ahead. Overall, the intraday level to watch, 33.25s. Failure to hold that zone could open up a little bit of weakness ahead. If we take a look here at the NQ, this one also showing a bit of strength here today, but not quite to the degree of the ES. Inside day right now. In the previous session, price was not able to push above the previous session's high or close beyond that high for that matter. And right now we're still seeing an inside day at these lows. So you can see the ES right now quite a bit more bullish than the NQ. But the NQ still has a shot here to bounce higher. This was a lower low failure. It took out the low just by a little bit yesterday and bounced. And that right there opens the door to a little bit more upside into the monthly pivot range. We still haven't had a test of that monthly pivot range just yet. So we could still see a little bit more upside here, perhaps into 11,355 or thereabouts. But right now, again, this market continues to hold inside the larger key range here. And anything's game inside this range, since we haven't tested the edge here, we haven't tested an edge there, we're kind of just inside. We could continue to see more movement here between, call it 11K and 12K until something happens, but it's building the energy for a move down the way. So right now, the early intraday level, again, continues to be 11,100. Holding above that level would suggest a little bit more upside. A failure to hold that level could lead to some weakness for a retest of yesterday's low. Let's take a look now at crude oil. Crude oil is up 3%. We had a strong low in the previous session. We saw that the strong low was beginning to develop in overnight trading with the extreme reversal that developed Sunday evening. This thing was holding or pushing back above 35s when we talked about it. I mentioned if we can close above 35, or better yet, close above 36, this could be a very, very strong low. It ended up closing above 37s and snapped back, and it already hit the midpoint of the impulse sell-off here at 37.77, which was our midpoint target. We also have the midpoint of the previous month's range at 38.41. That's just off the highs of the day by 11 pennies here. And then we also have the $40 pivot as well. That is the key range midpoint. So very, very strong low here at the CLVN, the 35 CLVN we discussed, the previous month's low. very strong low. That could again lead to a snapback toward the middle of this range at 40. So right now, crude oil showing quite a bit of strength here. Holding above 37 today would be very bullish. We could pull back as deep as 37 and still be a buying opportunity for a continuation toward 40 in the days ahead. So right now, very strong market overall. I would say if there's a failure of price to really find acceptance through 38.41, that may be an early indication that we could be pushing back down inside the range. So again, 38.41 is going to be very important. The previous month's midpoint above that zone opens up a clear path to 40. All right, let's take a look here at gold futures. Now with gold futures here, we've seen this thing bounce as well. Now above the midpoint of the previous month's range, that's 18.99s. Above that level opens up the previous month's high at 19.40. And I did mention before, really this thing doesn't really see lasting or true strength until it can get through 19.40 or better yet 19.50. But it's doing a good job right now. We saw the previous session take the previous month's close price bid. We're now seeing price push through the previous month's midpoint, and if it can stay above 1900 here, there's a path to 1940 ahead. So again, the key levels are in play. A failure to hold 1900 could open up another rotation back down within the range. But right now, gold appearing bullish and appears poised for a return back toward the previous month's high. Again, 1900 is the key level there. All right, please join me tomorrow, Wednesday, November 4th at 4 p.m. Central via the Zoom link below. We will talk shop here for at least an hour, and I'll also take your requests as well. And again, as always, look forward to seeing you in the trading room. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you soon. Take care.